Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Advocacy Prime. I'm so excited to be back here. And guys, it's been a very long time since I've been able to put out a podcast. But, with a lot of the things that are going on in the world, a lot of crazy things, we're just so happy to be able to, to be blessed and to be here and to be with an amazing individual who I found from ICEC, Illinois Council for Exceptional Children. Please visit our website. I will have our links right below to it. It's full of really cool things and great scholarship opportunities all out there. So today I do have Lindsey Frank, and she is a climate and SEL coach for a school district here out in Illinois. And she's also outside of the school day, she's a well-being and empowerment coach, especially for educators. She also owns her own company, The Butterfly Within, LLC, and that focuses on wellness and education. I'm going to go ahead and provide some links below, about that as well, and also everything that we're going to talk about. So, Lindsey, she is just super passionate about transforming education and through wellness and social emotional learning. She's also taught and supported students ranging from early learning to junior high. Lindsey also has experience as a climate and SEL coach, learning behavior specialist, interventionist, and teacher within diverse learning environments. Her master's degree is in ed leadership and supervision, and she is also a certified yoga and mindfulness instructor for adults and children with a focus on trauma-informed practices. So important. Also, I forgot to mention, she's an author, and we're gonna talk about these books, but she did bring in 2 titles for me today. We're gonna talk about these a little bit more. Big Change, Better You, and Beautiful World, also in Spanish as well. But I can't hesitate anymore. I need to introduce you, Lindsey Frank. How are we doing today?
Wonderful. Thanks, Michael, for having me today. I'm so excited and blessed to be here.
Thank you. And I really appreciate you coming to my humble abode. Just a little precursor for everyone out there. We might have a little friend rolling around here. He's kind of calmed down a little bit, but that's my Rocco. But hey, you know what? I think that's going to make the podcast even better than this.
I always love furry friends.
Yeah. So how you doing today?
Wonderful. I like I said, I just feel so blessed to be here. And I'm wondering if, to get us started, if we can do a mindful moment just to set an intention for this time, especially with everything going on and all the changes in the world. So if you don't mind, let's go ahead and do that. And for all the listeners and viewers out there, if you'd like to join us too, feel free. So wherever you are, go ahead and make a small adjustment, maybe sitting up tall in your chair, or maybe even sitting back or sitting or standing. And wherever you are, just take a moment to settle in, maybe noticing the bottoms of your feet or where you maybe be making contact, maybe with a chair. And then maybe on an exhale, if you'd like, feel free to close your eyes. So just bring focus to you. Often we move about our day so quickly, and so it's important to just spend this moment here for you. And then just check in with yourself, noticing where you are. And then maybe bringing awareness to your breath. Noticing the steady inhale and exhale and any texture that may bring. Maybe noticing the temperature. And then with each exhale, maybe allowing that space to be created for this time together and setting an intention for either listening or speaking. And honoring this time for the difference that we make in the lives of every single child, educator, adult, family member. Maybe take 3 more breaths on your own, resonating with that intention. And after your 3rd breath, if your eyes are closed, go ahead and open them. And if they're open, just looking around the space where we are today, with just that sense of gratitude in our hearts. Thank you.
That was awesome. And again, to be, to be really respectful towards mindfulness. I think that mindfulness is just kind of a term that's thrown out there a lot, right? It's just like, oh, I practice mindfulness. It's like, all right, well, really, do you? How do you do that? And I think my most favorite part about that is the intention. So often we go throughout our days really thinking about what is our intention? What's our intention of this conversation that we're having here? What's our intention of me opening the door to get into the car to go to work? It's almost the small things and that really do kind of lead into the larger, health of our mind and perspective. And it just really allows you to slow you down. What is, when we're talking about really just taking that moment, right? When's the first part of your day that you are taking your very first mindfulness approach?
Yeah, absolutely. So the moment I wake up, it's just having that moment to really be present with waking up in the day, setting that intention for the day, and setting that intention for when you're getting up and moving throughout the day, and with the students that you're with and the teachers that you're with. And as a coach, I work with everybody. So I always have an intention for every single person that I work with and connect with and partner with. And so like even here, my intention is to just be present and create a powerful experience that inspires people. So, it really just goes through your day. And I always have that morning, it's really easy to get going with the morning, but I wake up early. Yeah. I commit to myself that I wake up 5 o'clock every day. For me, that's my time. And whether I'm just sitting for a moment or, making my breakfast or even tea. I love tea and that just is something that's special for me. And then just integrating it into the school day, through every lesson, sharing that with kids, and just seeing the power that brings as well.
Yeah. Now, when I think about, setting an intention, right, like I almost think that, all right, like I need to set intentions for everything that I'm doing. So I have multiple intentions. And, how do you go ahead and narrow your focus on making an intention that is able to just kind of blossom, if that's making sense, that almost organically blossoms into what you are trying to be intentional about?
Yeah, that's a really great way of putting it. I love the word that you use with blossom, because that also shows the growth, right? We're always growing, and everything is based off of growth, and intentions can change. Yeah. Typically you know the relationships that you're moving into throughout the day. You know your students, you know your family. Yeah. And when you know them and you know that relationship, to be able to know what they're needing in that moment. Yeah. And especially with coaching, like that's huge. Sharing that space, creating that space through intention. But mindfulness truly just means here and now. Yeah. We say that often, that it's making you calm and relax, but really that's a byproduct that can happen. Yeah. Not always. It just means being present, and the best gift that we can give to people is our presence. Right. Not just presence, but presence.
Right. Exactly. and I also, bring it to, like, even if we don't have that presence, right? Like, we're almost doing a disservice then to the people that we're around, which in turn does a disservice to us. I really don't, I really believe that if you go and you give your everything to your students, but like if you're not really fully in your mind, I'm just giving all of everything that I have to my students just because to work, well, I need to reevaluate what am I overall intending here, That's one of the big components that I really do love about, SEL and again, you could be on easily on some sort of track or like recording, because like your voice easily like put me into just like, a time to really like take it serious, and the calm and the peace and the tranquility of it and the smoothness and just the simplicity of it too. Mm-hmm. If we make this over complex, right? Like it's just not going to be a process that people are going to want to do, Right. Right, buddy?
Aww.
I'm really sorry.
No problem.
Rocco needs his own attention.
Exactly. A little
and
future
his intentions
therapy,
is to play
dog.
right now. And my intention would be for him to please relax and enjoy the conversation with us. But
Dog in training.
Yes. I want to go ahead and we're going to talk some more SEL in a bit because I love it and your passion just kind of just spews out of you. It's brilliant. So I really do, Lindsey. I want to talk about ICEC. It's such a great organization that has just rock stars that are part of it. And I'm sitting in front of a fellow rock star who's saved my life with a position that I'm currently in right now. How did you even get involved in Illinois Council for Exceptional Children in the first place?
Yeah, actually, I was involved since college.
Nice.
Back in, 2007, I want to say, was the first year that I got involved as a student. And I think that goes to the importance of getting involved in something that lasts and can grow you professionally. And I just have such gratitude in my heart for ICEC and how I've grown as a professional through that organization and beyond that organization too, as a leader, as an educator. So it really started with, they were looking for somebody who can help change things a little bit as a student and bringing that into the organization. And I was asked if I would consider, and obviously you're going to say yes because it just is a wonderful organization.
Right.
And so from there, I was involved, over 10 years. And it's just the different positions that I've had there has been incredible, and being able to share it with other people. Since then I've moved from the special educator role into more of this wellness space, and now I'm a part of the Coalition of Schools Educating Mindfully. And so I truly still am so grateful for ICEC because they are that support system that helped me grow into who I am today.
Yeah, that's one thing I really do appreciate about ICEC is that they almost just you put forward all this work, but really in turn what you're getting back, because you're a volunteer, but what you're getting back are these invaluable experiences, the people, so the networking, and number 3, the push to go and do bigger and better things, and not necessarily, you don't have to stick in our special education world, let's go and make this more, let's expand it, because I think everybody who's part of that organization is just genuine about wanting to make people feel welcome and warm and accepted, and exceptional. That's, again, and with the multiple, so let's talk about the positions that you've held, right? Is it a huge list? Is it a small list? I mean, because sometimes you don't even know you're part of a position, it's they're like, oh wait, I'm a chair on this, I'm part of this committee. Okay, let's get to work then.
Yes. So yes, I was a student representative on the board. Nice. And then from there, I've done publicity and communications. I've done convention planning. I've been the Exceptional Children's Week, Yes I Can awards, the other awards. So those are really my main spaces within there. But my main passion, as you know, is Exceptional Children's Week and the Yes I Can awards, because that is truly where our heart lies in this, because it's meant for celebrating all of our learners in the world. Who have exceptionalities. And so to be able to honor them, to celebrate, and just pull out all of the qualities that they bring and gifts that they bring into our world is truly phenomenal.
Yeah. And, really talking about Exceptional Children's Week, and as I referred to earlier, that I am, the chair of that now. Lindsey just left me this wonderful, almost a task analysis, if you will, of things that you need to do. Literally, it is all right there. So there's no way I can fail. But that's something I appreciate, because when I we're at the Ray Graham, awards, for our convention, which I highly recommend. You guys go onto our website at, Illinois Council for Exceptional Children, and consider attending this conference, because on Saturday, it is just the coolest thing ever to go give awards out for what this conference and what this organization is about, and that is supporting people, with special needs. So, what have been some of your most favorite parts of that ceremony, of that awesome dinner that we get to have?
Yes, it truly is a celebration and honoring everything about special education. And there's even those moments where we even think about the history behind everything.
Yes.
It's incredible. But my favorite part is the awards, and to see the teacher of the year and all of the other contributors to this field, and especially for the Yes I Can awards and all the different layers that brings, and the gifts that the children bring, and to empower them. Yeah.
No, it's great, and it's almost a helpful reminder too, because it's typically in November, and we're on that stretch right now. I got my spring break coming up next week, and you just had, yours is finishing up, and sometimes we just kind of need that refresher of, oh yeah, this is why I'm here. I mean, you see when somebody gets this award, how excited they are, and how much they deserve it too, and that's just kind of what makes me want to do very well in this role. And for the listeners out there, it is Exceptional Children's Week, and it's the first week of May, and it's going to be an awesome themed week, since we are in these COVID-19 restrictions. So we're just going to go ahead and find ways to celebrate throughout the state, in schools, and it's going to be themed days in which we can dress up, also write social media posts and everything, just to go and put our number ones out there, and that's our Friends with Exceptionalities. So kind of bridging off of talking about Exceptional Children's Week here, why do you celebrate Exceptional Children's Week?
Oh, wow. It's all about bringing understanding into the world, and part of that slogan that came to me when I was part of the chair here was building understanding to be understood.
Yeah.
And when we can advocate for all learners with that equity and social justice heart that we need, that's the purpose of this, to build understanding, to build a community that accepts and embraces and loves every single person.
Yeah.
Every single person. Every single person has a voice, whether that voice is heard, seen, visual, felt.
Right.
Everybody has that. Everyone has a right. Everyone has a right to be a human.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Is that dog barking right now, speaking of the human?
Yes.
And it's kind of hard to hear with the headphones on right now. Hey, Mr. Rocco, can we be nice, buddy, please? He usually has a bell on the door that he rings, and I obviously had to take that off because he takes advantage of it when he does not get attention. As I'm a behavior intervention specialist, I know exactly what he's doing, and I don't mitigate it. So
and it's also hard, as we know, with being a learning behavior specialist, that we should ignore the behavior, but I totally can't. If you could see this adorable dog, everybody, Rocco is completely adorable, and I kind of have a thing for really cute dogs, so I'm doing a poor job at ignoring the behavior.
It's hard. It is very hard, especially when it's just continuous.
Yes.
Moving back to what we were talking about before, the many times we'll get interrupted by this dog, is the understanding of our Friends with Exceptionalities. It's the understanding of not just them, but everybody in the world, right? Especially at this time. It just with the climate and how everybody feels right now, and it's just, I feel like our world of special education, and my most favorite thing about our students is that they don't know what, that black, white, or just different types of issues are out there. That they're just more focused on love, and they're focused on being present too. Mm-hmm. They're there for us, and there's so much purity in them. I like to talk about this place. I went out to my wife and I went to Machu Picchu, and
Wow.
we were in Peru, out in Lima, and we were at these monasteries, and I kind of had the biggest realization of my life where we're in these monasteries and you see all of these skeletons and way deep below in the catacombs, and they all looked the same, the bones. And I just was able to like actually stop and reflect to myself, and I'm like, we're all the same. Like, that's the beauty of it. And it's just like, when we identify these social differences that we're not used to in our norm, in our world, you know, we like to point those out, whether it's in a positive or a negative way. And being there really helped me understand that we're all flesh, blood, brains, and just breathing people who are soaking in the experiences in life, making judgments and making decisions. And I don't know, I just found something really like beautiful about that, and that if we all were able to understand that, I feel that our climate could be just a lot better, you know?
Yeah, we're all Earth citizens.
Right.
We are all people. And we all have unique stories. And whether those stories every single story has had an impact on our life.
Right.
And to validate every single story that is a part of our life, whether we want to or not, but they are our stories. And that's what makes our story unique. And being able to be with that story and discover the qualities within us that maybe we would not have discovered before, but then ultimately know that all of that's connected.
Yeah.
We're all connected. And I just think that is just such a beautiful thing of knowing that we can be all together through love. Like you said, it really is love. To be loved, to have love, to show love.
Right.
And when you are love all the time,
Right.
like, you can't go wrong.
Right.
That's the ultimate thing, is love.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more, you know, like, and that's why it's just crazy that the things that we watch on TV and like, you know, we are all people who are searching for this certain type of love. And I never really fully realized that until I married my wife and I had my son. Like, it was crazy. Like, just like right from the moment he was born, like this crazy, like, just switch, like, just, I mean, like, went into my heart, and I'm like, oh my God. And like, it's really cool. And I just feel for people like who just aren't able to achieve or reach or find, you know, their happiness and what they're sought out for. I think that's kind of like what makes me, you know, okay at my job, is that like I have the ability to just understand and like feel what people are feeling and almost take that on for them, because I want only the best for them. Mm-hmm. Like, your job is, in my eyes, would be something that would be way too emotionally draining for me, because like, you know, yet we wear so many hats as special educators, but you know, sometimes you may have these pressures of that I need to go and solve this problem or help mitigate it. Talking about yourself, though, how do you really make sure that the practitioner is able to practice effectively? Because you need to be, you're number one. You need to be in the great mind frame. So, you know, how's that for you?
Yeah, and that's where the mindfulness is going to come back. And whether you want to call it mindfulness or wellness or well-being or whatever it may be, it's important to have that balance and being able to hold that space.
Yeah.
And, you know, that goes back to our original conversation of knowing that impact and that purpose.
Yeah.
We all go into education with that purpose, with that spark, with that joy, and figuring out how to bring that every single day, especially now when it may be around.
Right.
And we're trying to find it. It's there. And just going back to that purpose, that why we are educators, why we work with amazing individuals every day, amazing communities every day. And when we can find that purpose, connect with that purpose, then we are teaching with integrity.
Yeah.
And coaching with integrity. And so I think that's the biggest part, and that's even your values.
Right.
Like, what are your values? And that's what grounds you in every aspect of that well-being. And then from there, being present.
Right.
Being present with it.
So when did you like actually recognize that yourself? Like, you are Lindsey Frank, the special education teacher, teaching for our younger friends. And have you noticed yourself going into work, like just not thinking in the right mind frame, chugging along, but still bringing your passion forward, but you know that piece is missing? Did you notice that for yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what sparked me to move into this space that I am right now. It was around 2016 when I was like, yeah, I love what I do. Yeah. I love being in this space. I love being with my students and the families and everything, but something in me was just not quite sparked. Yeah. There's sparking was trying to figure out where it was, and it's because I wasn't taking care of myself.
Yeah.
I was that teacher who would come to work before school, like the doors open and I'm there, and I was the last person out. Yeah. And that's not okay. It's not okay. And bringing everything home, IEPs, writing that, it was definitely something where the moment I realized that I matter, and when I know that I can be okay with me and fill me up, then my work that I did with learners was so much more impactful. Yeah. And so that's when I began my own inner work journey. And, as you kind of shared, like kind of my path of where it is. And now this is when well-being right now, like with this pandemic, we needed to before, but we've finally been able to, thankfully see the gaps that exist even more. They've always been there, but we've kind of ripped the Band-Aids off. Right. And now when you see something, you have to do something about it. Right. You have to take action. That's how things manifest, is taking action. And so we have to take action on our own well-being as educators, so that we also can give that gift to our learners now, so that they are ready for the world. Yeah. And I can't relate to you anymore, because I think we all know those teachers that still do come in 5 o'clock in the morning and they're leaving at 7 o'clock p.m. And, I definitely used to be one of those, especially with coaching. And then I just kind of, even just after having my son too, and just kind of almost had more of a realization, I guess more of my question of what I'm wondering is that from when you were doing that regiment, from coming in early, leaving late, what has now changed in your life? Because you still, it's not like you take on any less work at all. Also owning her own company, like the butterfly within LLC. Sorry, I was just making sure I had that. Okay. So you've almost even maybe probably put more on your plate. Yeah. Right. So what has changed then from pre-Lindsey to now Lindsey? Yeah. In the moment, Lindsey. Yeah. Yeah. And I guess I'm going to share a personal story here. My health was absolutely getting impacted by what I was. Physical health too? Physical health. My heart was not in the best condition. It was beating in its own rhythm, and it was I was having panic and anxiety. Like it was an experience. Yeah. But there's something about, again, mindfulness. There's something about when you connect with yourself, when you can be fully present, like. As teachers, we're thinking about the next thing. Right. What's the next thing? What's the lesson? What is the needs all the time? And we need to be there too, and we need to be accepting that is part of the process of being ahead. Yeah. but we need to be right now. What is the need right now? We all know our lessons don't go exactly according to plan, right? And we're flexible. And that's the resilience. So I guess the biggest word underneath all of this is resilience and possibilities.
100%.
And so since that honoring of myself, and I mean that in itself is a whole other podcast that I get into, but you know, the biggest thing is, I would say, is find something that works for you, that grounds you, whether it is breathing. Like I'm sharing with teachers, how simple is it to just put a slide in your slide deck that's a transition slide, even just the breathing with a shape. Yeah. Honor the transitions. Those are gold. We're moving so quickly, and what are we teaching kids? Right. To move so quickly?
Right.
Why?
Right.
And
right.
we're putting
At
all
the
this
sound of a bell.
Exactly. And who's really putting all that pressure on us? I mean, we're saying we're all behind, but that's to what?
Right.
Honestly,
yes.
I'm gonna just pull it off. We're gonna pull it out here.
Exactly.
Like we're putting that on ourselves, and we're all behind here together. And for our learners who are behind potentially more, which I don't enjoy using that phrase, but that's the words that's coming up right now. Right. Why don't we just meet everybody where we are? We know the next step, the next teaching step, and that's it. That's what it is. Exactly. And we have all the tools we need in our toolbox, and we're going to do it. Yeah. We're going to do it. We are doing it.
I think that is just awesome. I mean, because you think about the bell schedule, right? And like, all right, now we're you know, students are rushing out there, and now you have this amount of time to have a social interaction, right? Like, and that's easily one of the most important pieces of the students' days, are just having these social interactions in the hallway, but we have to do it in 4 minutes. Mm-hmm. And it's got to be quick. Oh, I see my favorite teacher, you know, like, and how can we get intentional there, right? Like, and just have the conversations and the exchanges that we want. I don't know if you've read any kind of research out there, and it's more about the intentional, and having intentions. So I've started using it with my parents and having them do intentional goal setting. And to first, you know, as we're writing the goals, we write the goal down, and then we say it out loud. And to have intention with it. And the data, because I can't pull numbers out of my head, but, you know, I'm just really going to kind of abridge it. But, you know, the parents that are just going and letting the case managers write their goals versus the parents that are sitting down with the case manager, verbalizing the goals, saying that, you know, it is my intention to work on reading fluency, or, you know, to have my son, you know, increase his reading fluency from A to Z, you know, from you know, whatever types of
yes, not literally A to Z, but we get what you're saying. Yeah. From point A to point B, yes. Or, you know, we want a year's growth, so we'll put that out there, right?
Exactly.
Or more.
But I mean, the data just shows that mm-hmm. these students are, you know, the increased parental involvement, yes. and also increased student outcomes. So that's where, when you started talking about intentions, like, I'm like, I love that, because, you know, even when we're trying to fly through an IEP meeting too, like, if I'm not intentional there, like, I'm almost going into ethics, right? Like, I'm almost diving into ethics here, and I'm being unethical. This is their child.
Yeah.
And I always think about this, and I don't know how to ever put it to words, but, like, my students are right now at their homes. They're doing things. Like, their parents are with them. And I think about that stuff all the time. Am I being a little nuts here, or did you kind of know what I'm talking about?
I think I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Like, they are there, they're existing, and they're doing things. And, like, I'm living my life right here, right now. Mm-hmm. And it's just crazy, because I see them for 8 hours a day. And I even think about my friends, too. Like, I always think about them in their jobs during the day. And I'm like, wow, it's so cool. They're doing their jobs. I mean, like, I don't get to see them do that interaction, you know? And so, I don't know where this is coming from with the intentions there, but...
Can I connect?
Yes, please do. Please do.
Like, I think that right now also, like, as special educators, we have the ultimate amazing opportunity for such deep family engagement.
Yeah.
That intention, and having them set that intention alongside as a true team member, authentically, that's engagement. That's that piece where we're all here together, And I'm assuming too, also, I'm sure you probably have students help with that intention too, and setting their own intention and them being a part of their whole process as well. But, we have so many great resources and connections for our families. And it just is like, when we're thinking about equity and we're thinking about engagement, we have that power to just be so connected with the families.
It's like it's in front of us.
I'd say that's probably the one thing as a coach, because I was so connected to the families, because I work with so many teachers. I mean, I'm over 100, like over in the year. Like, it's like that family piece. I do miss that as a coach. I get so many other pieces, but I do miss the family piece, because it's just so amazing, that opportunity that's there.
Yeah, and I guess I want to make this a direct connection. Oh, buddy. We can't be ripping those headphones off, my man, please.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Rocco.
Down.
Come here, buddy. Good boy.
I hope you all saw how cute that dog is.
Yeah, if not, I'll probably just include a picture at the end or something saying this is who bothered us the whole time. But hey, you know what? I want to make a direct connection actually to this in your book, right? Because we're talking about families, and gosh, what a great segue. I want to talk about how your book, Big Change, Better You, Beautiful World, and how it can support families who are just beginning their journey within the worlds of exceptional learners. Okay, so I am showing you here the English copy. Okay, and I'm sitting in front of an author right now. It's kind of cool. And you can get this, and here is the Spanish version here. Gran cambio, mejor corazón, mundo hermoso. And you can find this on Amazon. You can find it anywhere where you buy books, just like this podcast, anywhere you find your podcast. Also on Barbara's bookstore. And her website, which I highly, highly encourage you to go to, is thebutterflywithin.me. So how do we make a connection with this book, and how we can support families who are just beginning that scary journey, but great journey of our world of exceptional learners?
Yeah. So, my book is all about the changes that life brings. And really the inspiration was with the pandemic. And I had a conversation with my friend, and she was just sharing, like, how do I have this conversation with my child about just big changes and the pandemic in general. And from there, she's like, you should write a book about it. I'm like, yeah, you know That's what, awesome. I should. So a little bit of backstory. I'm going to get to how this kind of came about. So I specifically was sharing how strategies for having changes in life, and through the lens of the butterfly.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is written for educators. It's written for parents. And there's even a section in there specifically for having difficult conversations about change for families and educators. And I just wanted to mention with this, like, as a special educator, sometimes we have that tricky conversation when a student first becomes a part of your class, a part of your caseload, a part of your community. And sometimes that can be a unique experience for a family. And so that's a big change. And so what this book can also offer families who are just beginning their journey within the exceptional framework, exceptional path, there's going to be changes. Maybe there's a change in your teacher or a change in how you're learning, and it can help bring some of the clarity. Or if there are, I'm thinking about changes in helping with behavior.
Right.
And so there's tools in there that connect SEL with mindfulness, and it's just so powerful. I'm not sure if you want me to highlight anything in particular in there.
You keep going organically, or you tell me where to go. I mean, first of all, the color on this is great. Me, I'm not a big reader, and I want to be really, but I also love short books, but also books that get to the point and also have great little pictures and text and color. This is colorful. I mean, this really just kind of screams you, like your personality, like, and that was a compliment.
Thank you. Well, and even that page that you're on, so it's very structured. So I wrote this so that families, let's say you and educators, you're in a moment and you're really needing a strategy right away to use. The pages look very similar so that you can find them. There's really 3 main tools about being present, about the gratitude, and about the inner language that we use. And the page that you're on shows how there's steps, and that's really segueing into SEL even. And by the way, it's SEL day.
Yeah, it is SEL day.
So even showing the steps in breaking down a skill. So you mentioned the task and skill analysis. It's basically the same thing, but it's accessible for everybody.
Can I read an excerpt?
Sure.
Okay, so this page is Try It, the present moment. And we have Tingle 20 or 5 colors. So we're going to go with Tingle 20. Step 1, pause where you are. Step 2, breathe in, breathe out. Step 3, stomp your feet or clap your hands 20 times. Ready, set, go. Step 4, pause and ask, how do my feet or my hands feel? Do they feel tingly, hot, cold, other sensation? Am I in the present moment? These are very similar to what we opened with. Please place your hands on your heart and feel your heartbeat. Breathe in and breathe out. And it just looks like you, and then now it looks like you just adapted it to just another, you differentiated it here.
Yes, that's exactly what I did because one, I love 5 colors.
Man.
However, we have learners who may not be able to physically see different colors. So I wanted to offer an alternative, and others who may not be able to necessarily stomp their feet or clap their hands, but they can find those colors. So that was intentional to provide options. And also,
this is so cool, guys. Go buy this thing.
You can't turn those things off, right? You got
en español.
I wrote that in Spanish.
That's awesome. Do you speak Spanish?
Yes. Yes.
So that was such a silly question.
Well, yes and no. I obviously had help in editors, but I try to learn different skills to be as inclusive as possible and connect with people, everyone, everywhere, as much as I can. So I have been blessed with so many gifts that I've developed over time that I want to share and share and share.
Yeah. And I also like the reflective piece of this as well.
Yep.
Which tool do you like best? When would it be good times to use it? And that really highlights my dog eating his food. But, also, like, when we don't reflect, right? Like, I find my reflection periods are, I intentionally set them on my way home, right? It's just so that I'm able to leave them in the car while my podcast is going on still. It's not just like I'm going through deep reflection all the time. I just kind of do reflect about how my day was. But if we miss that reflection component in our lives, how are we really learning? And how are we really assessing if we learned? And
the action.
Right.
It's one thing to learn these tools, but unless you actually integrate it. And if you want to go more towards the back, because we don't want to give it all away.
Right, yeah. Otherwise, this is an audiobook.
Yes, which there it is recorded from Barbara's bookstore. However,
we do have a recording of it out there. Yes.
I think you have 2 more pages.
Okay.
That one, actually, where you're at, that's about how you bring service into the world. So I wanted the readers to also be interactive with the book and hold ourselves accountable. And so that is the flower goal, just how butterflies help flowers. How can you help the world? What's your service goal, your flower goal for the world? And for our readers to be able to write that in the book. Also, there's downloadable pages, especially for those who are in classes. But the next page is where I wanted to take us. And that is honestly my favorite ending part here. It wraps it all up. And actually, if you hold it there, I'll read it for us. but to remember to be in the present moment, be grateful, be courageous, and wonder. Whether there's a small change or there is a big change, there's a chance to become a better you. When you look within and love the journey, you can make a more beautiful world. Be ready to transform. It is a gift waiting for you. And on the last page, you get to become the illustrator.
Oh my God.
And you become that butterfly. And I would love, love, love if everybody here, if you wanted to do that, to share it with me. And you can also connect with me on that page.
This is just great. I mean, because we're hitting all of our senses.
Yes.
We're hitting our... Okay, my man, please get down. And also, I mean, this is just like, it's like poetry here too. And it's just so, again, the simplicity. And that's what mindfulness needs. When we overcomplicate things, and I mean, when we overcomplicate it, you're not able to put it into a children's book. You've effectively been able to simplify, many of this through the lens of a butterfly. Oh, and I see a little caterpillar right below the tree of love here.
You'd have to read to find out more about that.
Yeah, and we're not giving away any freebies here. No, we're not. This is so cool. I'm I'm blown away. Also just, for a fact too, that we're getting this in Spanish as well. That's just so great. I mean, how was this process of writing this? Did you go lock yourself in a desert and become mindful? As I think Matthew McConaughey wrote his memoir like that.
No, actually,
or autobiography. Memoirs if you die, right? Yeah. So no, Matthew McConaughey, not breaking news. He's still alive. Yeah. He wrote a book about himself, okay, and he wrote it out in the desert.
I did not go to the desert. I mean, obviously we can't travel.
Yeah, right.
Getting closer every day, and yay for vaccines.
Yes.
Which is how we're able to safely be here today.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I think I kind of mentioned, but I'll kind of do a little mini story here, is I was inspired by my friend, validated from one of my mentors, my inner growth mentors, Anadea Judith, in a conversation. And from there, that was in April. So we're coming up near a year. So April.
You started this in April.
I started that last April. It was done by the end of the month, because when your heart says go for it, you go for it.
Right.
Just like Rocco's go for it. Yes. But you go for it, right? And so I did, and because I wanted it to be done by May because of the process, and you learn to collaborate with so many different people, finding an editor. So I self-published this. That's how I was able to get it so quickly, because my goal was by August. I wanted it in the hands of our readers by August with all of the changes to validate them, to help them through all of these different components, through the learning, the world dynamics that we're living in, emotional changes, family changes. I mean, everything that changed, seasons.
Right.
So then, from August, I had it published. It was ready to go. And then September, I was able to complete the Spanish version. And then I've just been sharing it as much as I can with everybody. So
it's exciting. It's just so cool. And like I said, I think I've said it too many times, but like legitimately check this out, because I mean, this is how we need to present these these topics to especially our young friends, right? Like, our young friends are really, really important to get them into practicing and practicing mindfulness and practicing just being understanding of your body and your mind and your breath, and just knowing that we are here for a reason, and to hopefully that will help then mitigate these crazy pressures that all of these kids have. Which kind of leads me to a question that really isn't I don't think we even written down or anything like that, but how do you guide, you have maybe a troubled student who's with you, and they are struggling with their image, right? But it's one of those students who is the whole package, right? Like, they're just sweet, they're charismatic, they got all of these really great things going for them, but like, they're just really self-conscious in that, like, you can't just wave a magic wand and be like, hey, don't look at social media because everyone's just updoing themselves and they're looking for likes and everything. With, technology and the increase of it, what do you think has been your approach to helping kids struggle with that, especially with the young guns that you work with?
Wow, yes. There's so many layers to that, but that's going to layer in so well with social emotional learning. I recently was in a classroom. We were co-teaching, and our lesson was specifically about the...
Who were you co-teaching with? Like, what other type of teacher?
Yeah, a general education dual language teacher for fourth grade.
Nice.
Yeah, so
that's
we...
cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool you get to do that.
Yeah, I know. I am so blessed. Like, literally, I've been in every single teaching environment, really, and that's amazing. And it's... That's a whole... Anyway, let me stick here, and then we could go there. But yeah, we were co-teaching, and the teacher wanted to create an experience for her students with that self-concept and the inner talk that they are sharing. So we did this whole experience. We developed our social and emotional learning plan that we wanted to share. What was the skill? And the skill was learning how to have that self-talk,
right,
and reframing. And so we explored a mindful moment first, and how the negative words can impact us.
Yeah.
It was powerful.
I bet.
Like how your body feels when you say, I'm not good enough.
Right.
I'm not smart enough. I'm not, like all those different I'm nots. And then to let that, say that's not true,
right,
and going through and reframing. And then we did the same thing, but with the powerful words of I am enough.
Wow.
And others throughout that. And the students afterward were like, oh my goodness. And we broke them into breakout rooms. The conversation that they had was absolutely phenomenal. And that's where, SEL and mindfulness, they're not separate. It's a part of it. That's one of the competencies, right? We have really all of the competencies, because you have to be self-aware to know where you're at. You need to have the right tools, which is your self-management.
Right.
Then through those tools, I can then have positive relationships. I can be aware socially with people who are around me.
Right.
I can make the best decisions that I can in this moment. That decision of self-talk, that decision of, am I going to open up that text? Learning the skills of how to use chats.
Yeah.
I'm partnering with teachers on that. Like, how do you use Google Hangouts as a tool? And, yes, we have different behaviors that students may engage in, but if we haven't explicitly taught them the skill, we cannot expect them to do that skill. And every environment is so different, so we have to continually teach it.
So go on a little bit more about the chats, though. Like, what's that now? What's that tool you're alluding to? Is that more of having students having an outlet to reach out to, like not a private way, but more just an avenue that they will, not have to be seen going up to the teacher visibly upset, about something. Is that kind of what you're saying, to have those chats opened up, or?
Oh, yeah, no, kind of, not really.
Okay, all right, we'll go.
Let's go with a little bit more. So, like, in regards to the SEL tool, like, you think about with the teacher, because every class is different, like, what's the skill that they're needing? They're needing to learn how to use, for example, Google Hangouts appropriately. Like, they may not have been, but before we introduce tools, we really want to teach it first. But this was a situation where they've already had the tool and it may not have been used at the best way. Yeah. So we also then have that restorative piece and having to layer that in too. But, thinking about, okay, so you have this tool. Well, what does it mean to have this tool? How can we use this tool? When do we use this tool? What are the steps to use this tool? Like, step 1, think about what you need to say, and is it important? Is it necessary? Is it something that's helpful? Next step, like, when I hear that message, do I respond? Do I not respond? Right. Is it the right time, right place? It's during class. Maybe my student friend might need my help, because that's where we were like, well, maybe they're using it for help. But if they read it, they can choose to let it go. We're not really teaching that. And so what's happening is all the time, right? We're on our devices all the time. But when have we actually stopped and taught explicitly, like, what does it mean to have that device?
Yeah.
How, and then explicitly teach it, explicitly model it, explicitly then practice it with feedback, right?
I mean,
those are all those
all
steps.
These evidence-based practices here.
Yes, that's SEL instruction. How we teach SEL is how we teach academics.
Because, I mean, we would, honestly just say, think before you speak, and that's the tool, right?
Right.
And then you're
That's
off.
it.
Like, you say something.
They're not doing it.
Well, yeah, right. It's, look at the ABC of it, right? Like, the antecedent, something said, and, the behavior, the consequence of the behavior then is think before you speak. Okay, well, where's the follow-up? Well, where is that process that begins to peel back the onion and say, well, rather than saying think before we speak, let's be proactive and teach you get a hateful message, read it, process it, throw it out the door. Like just having those steps. It's so important. And, I think people are very critical on that. This is the social media age. And you remember like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when all these kids on Facebook and everything. And now, our grandparents, right? Like they're glued to their phones too, And so that's why more than ever right now is we need to set that solid foundation of how to interact on the internet. Like, and how, that because you interact with somebody on the internet one way and you're not going to interact with them the same way in person, that's the wrong mindset. Like, just because you're behind a screen, that doesn't mean you can just say whatever the heck you want. And like these kids are getting reinforced negatively and positively, just, how many likes that they have on their page or how much hate they can stir up, without having any consequences. Whereas, just in person here, if I just let all the explicits that I think, my consequences are that, we could break out into a fight. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And that's just such a tough world to navigate. I just love that. Initially teaching that tool.
Yeah, you teach it, but then when you've taught it, that then becomes your teaching tool. Because most of the time, like in how we explore that, is there's some kind of visual that goes with it. Well, if a student maybe chooses the alternative behavior, well, now you have a visual for them to review. They can create a video of them now doing the right behavior. We obviously would also, because the consequence also has to incorporate the learning piece. We can't just say, they've removed a privilege. We have to teach, well, what is the expected behavior?
Right.
So you would already have all that created and reinforced and providing feedback in that loving, compassionate way, yet firm way, yet it's not okay to make those decisions. But I'm here to support you through that, and here's how we can learn from that, and for them to practice, reinforce.
Yeah, right.
It goes back with that routine, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do you ensure then fidelity of, you go in and you talk about your co-teaching model, but are you co-teaching every single day with that same teacher?
Not every single day with that teacher.
So how are you going to go ahead and ensure when Lindsey Frank, with all of these wonderful tools, comes in and changes the world in this classroom, but now I'm scheduled to go to another classroom tomorrow and co-teach with another teacher. How do you ensure that fidelity is there? Because I think it's the simple problem and I think a lot of special educators, we have all these great ideas, we implement them, and then they get lost into the abyss of our files and stuff like that in our brains, and we're not actively pulling out those good ideas and maintaining it and making sure there's fidelity in that. So how do you ensure that teacher A is able to stay consistent?
Yeah. Well, I think that's the beauty of that coaching mindset, because we coach to build and empower teachers versus what I found, when I was first starting out as a special educator, it's like, I know these accommodations. Here's what you do. That doesn't work that way.
Right.
We have to learn together, grow together, what works in each community, because every community is different and every student is different. So we have to continue to share and educate and build understanding for all of our learners and in the spaces. But it's a partnership. So, we have to see where the teachers are at and figuring out what works for them, for their students, and then where that student need is, and how we can make all of these things work together in a unique and authentic way.
Hey, Mr. Rocco.
Rocco.
Hey, come here, buddy. Come here. Hey, will you knock it off, please, bud? I just need you to sit.
Yeah.
Can you sit? Can you relax? Yeah, and because I just always feel that sometimes that there's, and that's just like a personal experience where we will have some great, I'm not classifying you as a social worker, but the social workers do come in and they talk about our students, oh my God, what scores? Adverse learning, or adverse child.
ACEs.
Yeah, your ACEs score.
Like, which scores? Test scores?
Yeah.
What
That was a
scores are we going with?
pretty broad question here.
Sports scores.
How many times he jumps on you during this podcast scores.
No.
But they come in and they talk about the A scores and they open up our minds for that week. And then after that, it's like gone with the wind, right?
Yeah. Well, and I'll mention too, you mentioned with fidelity and that's honestly, I'm going to say, like, relationship is key, and we're supports and we're together as a community. And so
I love that.
Creating something together for that fidelity piece, for that, let's look at this together. How will we know that we're being successful? How can I support you in that? How can you support me in that? How can we support the student in that? Yeah. And so that's where, it's going to look different for every single classroom. And, when we think about SEL, it's not a, I'm going to get on my soapbox here about this too. Yes. And there's a right time and right place for our programs, our boxed programs. And they're beautiful.
Yeah.
But we also need to honor the fact that there are specific needs happening in the classroom that we have to differentiate for and address and grow from. So honestly, that question is, what is my next SEL teaching move, is what I always, go with. And it may not match,
right,
a particular sequence in a series of lessons where that fidelity piece may be easier to assess.
Yeah.
But you find those organic and informal ways of knowing and creating assessments. There's so many ways of doing that now.
Absolutely. I think also how you're saying, okay, like, what's my next teaching step, right? Like what's my step? Like, that's important to, not just go in there initially with the plan, but knowing that hey, okay, my plan's also going to have just another step too, Yeah. And so, let's just talk about SEL Day here. And Social Emotional Learning Day. And I did not plan this. I actually had to change our date.
Yeah.
To today. So what does really SEL mean to you, and how should this not just be celebrated on Friday, March 26th or March 26th of every year, but why should it be celebrated every single day?
Every single day. Because these are those skills that we need to be the person who we need to be in the world.
Yeah.
We need this because it's also, they have the research behind to show, like, these are the skills that are necessary in our workforce.
Yeah.
They are equitable for every single student. And honestly, what we find is engagement increases, focus increases, academic scores, 11 percentile points for SEL. It
just makes sense.
And behavior referrals go doin.
Yeah,
and
just makes sense.
It's not one day.
Right.
It's all the time. And it's just, I as a climate and SEL coach by day, like, it makes my heart happy that we have a day for this, because some people may not feel that it belongs in the classroom, or they may feel that it's that extra, or gosh, I have to have a circle. That's the relationship piece, and it matters. If you are finding that mindset, take that step back and see, like, if I were to have made that connection with that student, if I were to have, during my math lesson and they're having small groups, and if I didn't actually teach them the skills for turn taking, respectfully disagreeing, all those different pieces, and that engagement might be low, well, it's probably because that SEL hasn't been that connected to academics. They're together. You can't separate them.
Right.
Everything that we teach has an SEL component.
Yeah. Like, again, right, the holistic thing. And, like, I'm just super unhappy that you're trying to tear apart our cushions, buddy. Because you don't usually do this when I'm home. And usually you're a lot better when I'm home, too. But that's okay.
He really wants attention.
I'm feeding into it, too. And I'm also, you're talking about making your heart happy and how this makes your heart happy. But what makes my heart happy is that they do have a health and wellness. I just say the title wrong. But the wellness coordinator. I've seen that pop up over other high school districts around the state that are starting to fill these positions and make them like that. And like that is just so important to have one dedicated person, because our social workers are, they're do have big caseloads, and there's a lot of time that's needed for individual students with very traumatic cases, right? But then when those social workers are overloaded, then how are the teachers and the students going to be able to understand that continuum, right? Of that integration between social emotional learning and academic learning. I think that's why it's so important to districts to realize that this position is important. Now, when you wanted to be this, a specific role, did you have to go ahead and create it yourself? Did you have to make a claim, a proposal? How did that look?
Yeah, so this all started with when I decided to take care of myself. Different things became aligned.
Yeah.
And this position was created in the district. It was not something that I proposed. I didn't honestly even know what it was. I had somebody approach me and say that, we feel like you might be a good fit for this. Will you consider applying?
Wow.
And I did, and here we are today.
Wow.
But
how long?
I believe this is the 4th year. So 2017 was when this created. And along the way, though, it wasn't actually created. I'm the first person to be in this space. So yes, I did create it into what it is today. And it's just been such a blessing.
Yeah. No, and it's really cool that you get to just go and really spread your wings like the butterfly that you are.
Yeah.
And get to go and spread this important messages and help support teachers and students when we, really, really need it. So, on SEL Day, how are, we talked about how you kind of are preparing your staff and students. But, now we're seeing some students who have anxiety about returning back to in person. And sometimes you hear that blown out of proportion a little bit. I think people are, like to be dramatic about these are remote learners who are actively making the choice to stay home. How are you able to approach that, whether on a single, basis or, a classroom basis, to help support people and their kids? Like you and I, we picked up our social like there's not many people we've probably been interacting with except for the people we work with,
yes.
Our loved ones, and that's about it, right? Like, and now it's like, oh, I have to go and, once those masks come off at the store, I got to remember how to smile at somebody. I still do behind the mask though, and I hope that my eyes can tell them, but whoever knows. But how do we prepare our students for that? Because now we're going back and facing reality and in-person exchanges.
Yeah, and realizing that the reality is not the reality of what we once knew.
Right.
And I think we also need to acknowledge Rocco. Also need to acknowledge that it is a new environment. And, this is where my trauma my trauma-informed space is going to kind of come through a little bit. And just the thinking, we are going through grief in general as a global grief, and loss of an experience, loss of loved ones, loss of time, loss of a school year, loss of, loss. However, there are so many celebrations too. and I want to acknowledge that. And I know for a fact, like, I've found so much to be grateful for during this time, but we have to validate. And I think that's the number one thing.
Oh man, that is
is validate.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, like I didn't even think about that, right? Like I thought about finding the celebrations and the things that we need to, recognize as accomplishments, right? In the growth. But the validation, keep going.
Yeah. And, not to bring the book back up, but I kind of wrote that in there. And that part of the pages, it gives you that sentence frame of how to validate. And we have to acknowledge that, because if we don't, we're then denying a part of our story. And we all know how that goes when we don't.
Wow.
Yeah. And so as we validate that, we can move with it and become a part of it, because obviously we can't erase this story.
Right.
We have to become a part of the story. And, seeing where we are on that grief continuum, and seeing that, okay, where am I at right now?
Right.
I wrote an article about that in Coaching Through the Process back in 2018, just before all of this crazy stuff happened. But I keep referring back to it and saying, okay, where am I at? And then I also want to mention the window of tolerance, if I can go there.
Yeah, please do.
I don't know. For those of you who don't know what the window of tolerance is, I've been really reflecting on this as well. And this is really thinking about, we are all a window, right? We all have our own window, and we have our layers. So we have the hyperarousal and the hypoarousal. So a lot of us are in this state of chaos, this anxiety, a lot of energy, that panic piece. And then you have down below where it's that depression, lethargic, disconnected piece. And we look at those spaces because we're a line kind of like moving throughout the window. And our window used to be fairly big, so what used to allow us to be resilient allowed us to be there. But with everything, our window has gotten smaller.
Yeah.
And so then the lines for our, I like to call them button zones, but honestly, I will call them triggers, because we are talking about trauma in some lenses. And I am going to go, this is Lindsey's heart speaking here, is regardless, yes, everybody experiences trauma differently. And whether some people may or may not internalize that initially, I would honestly say we all do.
Yeah.
Our bodies experience it regardless if we acknowledge it or not. So we are all experiencing trauma in some way, shape, or form, whether it's our own, whether it's the world's, and whether it's the students who we're with.
Right.
And so knowing that we are all having this window, we're all on that grief in some way, shape, or form. And some of us don't even know that yet. Right. And that'll come out years later. But it's important to know that we have to validate the story, be with it, and present with that, so that we can move with it.
So what about the maintenance of the window, right? Like, we always want the window to be clear. We want the window to be transparent, but some like to have a little more tint to their window. I love, one of my favorite books ever is the art of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Mm-hmm. And I think it's, and really like a long story short, you have this man who's traveling across the United States and on his BMW bike. And so it breaks down, and are you going to be the one that's going to do maintenance on your own bike, right? And it's just more of a metaphor to his life. Are you going to have someone else do the maintenance on there? Are you going to have someone else clean that bike for you? Or are you going to do it? And that's almost how I kind of compare this to your window idea. Am I on target kind of a little bit with like even just like the maintenance of the window, right? Like, because I love that. And I can kind of visually understand now that when we're in crisis, that we are letting this get narrow and just less room for breathing and less breathing and being able to talk about that with other people. Is that kind of on the target there a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's not my idea of the window. It's right. Within the trauma informed experts out there as well. But I like what you're saying about the maintenance with the window. And that goes back to finding how can you be present with that window
Right.
so that we can continue to open it just a little bit. And one of the resources there is actually called resourcing. You find the resources within you. You know, you find something that allows you to be there and step into it and then step out.
Yeah.
And step in and step out on your own. Like, okay, like I can be with this feeling, this experience, and when I don't want to.
Yeah.
In a way that validates it. And the more we validate and are present with something, the more that it just is and is not escalated.
Yeah.
Because as you know, it's throwing that wood into the fire. Each time we deny something, it's more wood.
Yeah.
So if we can just sit with it, just how we sit like a campfire,
Right.
eventually it turns into the embers, and it doesn't really go away, and it still is there. And maybe we don't even want it to go away because, again, it's a part of the story.
Yeah.
We're all here for a reason right now, in this moment, to do the work that we need to do.
Right.
Gosh, how powerful is that?
Yeah, no, I'm like sitting here like, geez, like, you know, because I love talking to people who are extremely passionate about SEL, because also it's just like a really good reminder for me as well, you know, just these different, you know, how our experiences and how our reactions and how the way that we perceive things can be, you know, squished down into this pressure. And, well, how are we going to go and look through that window? How are we going to go ahead and treat that window? How are we going to go ahead and let others peer into that window? Like, I just love it. And I think it's just really important for people to understand that, you know, and for people like you to go into schools or to be in schools and to explicitly teach that through the ways that we have been taught to be a teacher. You know, probably from our modeling, our practicing, our, you know, our non-examples and stuff like that. It's amazing. So what is with that? I mean, like, what about your biggest challenge right now? What has been your biggest challenge or challenges as a leader in SEL?
Yeah. There's always unique challenges and experiences, but, you know, just being able to welcome them. And, you know, I asked the same question. What's my next SEL teaching move or my next coaching move?
Yeah.
And there have been, you know, this whole year has been asking that question every day, right?
Yeah.
And being with it. And part of the SEL competencies is being able to make those decisions and think creatively,
Yeah.
being able to problem solve, and just try it. You know, when we're faced with these challenges, we just have to take action. Because by inaction, nothing will ever happen.
Right.
But if we try it, even in the face of resistance, we can say, okay, reflect. What worked? What can I move forward with? What can we change? And, you know, not viewing it as that challenge. And, you know, I'm trying to think of specific challenges.
Well, I mean, and maybe I can help you out here. Because, like, maybe is it like, would you say that those challenges still exist when you look 4 months ago? So let's even go 4 months back when, you know, and I don't quite know where you work is, you know, I've been in person since the summer. So what about the remote challenges, I guess? Because, you know, sometimes those can often turn into like, oh, what is this teletherapy for me? Or what is this, like, you know, teletherapy for you? So, you know, I guess what I'm saying is that your engagement when you're in that remote setting, like, was that ever a big challenge for you?
Okay, so
the buy-in?
So like challenges within the remote setting. You know, if we take the student lens of those types of challenges, and you know, thinking about, you know, how to have that engagement, how to, you know, be within a space where now guests, we had this kind of as our framework of like, we are all guests in somebody's home, and they're all guests in our home.
Right.
So we've in the district where I'm at, like we were full remote for a while. And recently we then moved to hybrid, 2 days for one group and then 2 days for another group. And starting on Monday, we are going to be full day hybrid combining the groups as well. So, I guess the biggest challenges have been the changes and supporting students through them, supporting staff through them. Again, going back to the book, it really is. It's a lot of change, a lot of transition, and being with that transition and supporting people through that transition, because especially with our unique learners, transitions are so hard.
Right.
And preparing them for that and creating those spaces. So I'd say that was probably a pretty tricky challenge, is just being with the constant state of change. But then that's also the importance of what we need to do and be with that change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's remarkable. So, I'm gonna kind of go ahead and wrap this up here a little bit, but I just really want to highly encourage you, because Lindsey, like everything that we've been saying just seems to really connect back to here, and again, like this almost just seems like a really good. I don't want to say starter kit, right? Like to
Yeah.
but like still, like, right, you have to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And parents, if you're really looking for a place to start, I highly suggest this, because it just really has all of these components in there that are so important. And I love that you use gratitude a lot. I don't think that is a word that I do use enough, but in here we do have the family and educator connections. We have our COVID-19. This is the encyclopedia, very abridged encyclopedia of what we need. I love this big text in here. I love the colors, and I love the I am statements as well. Is there anything that maybe that you wanted to talk about, or, to bring forward, or anything that we did miss at all?
Yeah, I feel like we really had a wonderful conversation, and it's just, again, the importance of that SEL has a place, and to honor that, especially on a day like today, and knowing that there are supports and honoring the wellness of every single person in a learning community. It's the educators, the leaders, the students, the families, and taking that holistic approach, which is really where my passion lies. And that's, again, with the butterfly within. But I just really value this time to share.
Yeah.
And it's just about finding that connection within you, within all of us, to take that action of what we need to do and who we need to be in the world, because ultimately we want to make this a beautiful world.
Yeah. And this seems to be the roadmap. Like, so we began with such a wonderful moment that actually was help me ground myself. I am someone who does like to, to be able to make sure that all my ideas are out there, and really that I was able to just go ahead and just sit here and understand that we're both here to have this conversation. Now, do you have a way to close this off here?
Yeah, sure. I can do a closing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, for all of our listeners and viewers, if you'd like to join us. And
Rocco, too.
And Rocco, too.
He's joining us over there.
Yes. So, again, make that small adjustment. And the reason why we make that adjustment is because it makes our brain change for a moment intentionally. Like, we can choose that. And whether you're sitting or standing, walking or laying, just bring yourself present. Again, noticing the bottoms of your feet. Noticing where you are in the space. And if it's safe and comfortable for you, if you'd like, you are more than welcome to maybe gently close your eyes or look somewhere where you can truly focus on you for this time. And then maybe checking in, have there been any changes since we first started? And change in how your body, breath, emotions, or even thoughts. And then taking this time to connect back with your breathing if you would like. And then just observe that there's this natural pause that happens between every inhale and every exhale. And letting that be a reminder that there's always an opportunity to pause that's here with us all the time. No matter what's happening around. And then taking a moment here to maybe think about one thing that stuck with you and resonated with you today. Maybe checking in with that intention. And taking 3 breaths here on your own speed. Maybe breathing in anything that you need and breathing out anything that you don't. And after your 3rd breath, maybe a smile appears on your face as you slowly open your eyes, or if your eyes are open, looking around the space, bringing yourself back and honoring this time with that gratitude that we have in this important work that we do.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's just great. And we see the immediate benefits of them. And, you know, I think that what I'm getting from this is that I want to, you know, be able just to stop saying that I'm going to go ahead and ground myself every single morning, or, you know, and I get on this kick of doing it for a week. Just like we're saying, I mean, practice until it just becomes kind of automatic. And I can feel you at this automatic stage, and it's pretty cool. And, you know, I think it's a place that we all really envy and we want to be. And if you want to help you, your kids, or your family, big change, better you, and beautiful world. I almost combined those 2 phrases there. Okay, and that is by Lindsey Frank. Yeah. So, Lindsey, Frank, I really, really genuinely appreciate you coming here to my house, and I'm really excited to share all this with the world.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for sharing the story. I appreciate you and all that you do for Advocacy Prime.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, my friends, thank you guys so much. That was Lindsey Frank here, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.